Average Joes. Welcome back to another episode of the Average Joseph podcast. Today we're tackling OCD, or Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. So imagine locking your front door and walking away, then a voice in your head screams, "What if it's not really locked and someone breaks in and hurts your family?" You turn around, check it 37 times, feel ridiculous, but the dread doesn't leave until you do. Or picture washing your hands until they bleed because that speck might be contaminated. That's not being careful or neat. That's OCD, Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, hijacking millions of brains every single day. Today, we're talking real research from 2025 and 2026, the hard numbers, the actual brain science, every major type of OCD, including the invisible ones, why it happens, how badly it hurts lives, and most importantly, the proven path out. This is a long journey. OCD isn't simple, and neither is the science. But bottom line up front, OCD is highly treatable. With the right tools, most people get major relief and many reach full freedom. Let's start at the beginning. What really is OCD? This vicious cycle explained. OCD is a brain condition where unwanted intrusive thoughts, called obsessions, trigger intense anxiety, disgust, doubt, or a creepy, not just right feeling. These thoughts feel foreign, like they don't belong to you, and they won't shut up. To get temporary relief, the brain demands you perform compulsions, physical actions, or mental rituals. The relief lasts minutes, then the obsession roars back even stronger. It's a loop that can eat 2, 5, and even 10 plus hours a day. To be diagnosed, these loops must take more than an hour daily, cause real distress, and mess with work, school, relationships, or life. It's listed in the DSM-5 as a real medical disorder and not just a personality quirk. So let's break down this cycle with a simple example everyone can picture. You're driving home and suddenly think, what if I hit someone back there? That's an obsession. Anxiety explodes, so you drive back and check the roadside 3 times. That's a compulsion. Short relief, then the doubt returns. That's the trap. The National Institute of Mental Health describes obsessions as uncontrollable, recurring thoughts and compulsions as repetitive behaviors you feel driven to do. The key, you usually know the thoughts are over the top, but the anxiety feels unbearable without the ritual. It's ego dystonic, which means it goes against who you really are. OCD isn't just hand washing or organizing. There are dozens of themes, and most people have more than one. Here are the big ones, the real world examples, so you can recognize them. So number one, first up, we've got contamination. This is the most famous, but not the only one. This is where you've got like a fear of germs, chemicals, bodily fluids, or even emotional dirt from certain people. The compulsions with contamination usually look like washing, showering for hours, avoiding public places, excessive cleaning. One person described throwing out entire groceries because the bag touched the floor. Next up, we've got harm or violence. So you'll have terrifying thoughts like, what if I snap and stab my partner? Or did I run over someone? The compulsions seen with this include checking locks, stoves, avoiding knives, mental review of every action. And we're talking like 50 times, not just once or twice. These are the scariest because they feel so real. Next, we have checking and responsibility. Did I cause an accident by not double checking the car? Or will my house burn down because I didn't unplug everything? This is endless rechecking and asking for reassurance. Next, we have symmetry, just right, and perfectionism. Things must feel exactly even, ordered, or just right. Tapping objects until it feels perfect, rewriting notes, endlessly arranging books for hours. It's not about neatness, but it's about unbearable completeness. Next, we have scrupulosity and religious moral OCD. This is the category that I actually fit in myself. So this is going to be a fear of sinning, offending God, or being a bad person. Compulsions associated with this include endless praying, confessing tiny thoughts, avoiding sinful media, and one study showed this theme is especially common and devastating. Next, you have taboo or pure O, which involve themes of sexuality, aggression, or identity. So you'll have unwanted sexual thoughts about others and orientation doubts. Purely obsessional means mostly mental compulsions, analyzing, praying, mental reviewing. No visible rituals, so outsiders never see the war inside. Next up, we have relationship OCD or ROCD. This is a constant doubt, such as, is this the right partner, or do I really love them? This is an endless mental comparison and involves seeking reassurance and testing feelings. Next up, we have The other common ones, such as existential, what is the meaning of life and does that make me crazy? Maybe false memories, did I do something terrible years ago? Or somatic, which is a hyper focus on body sensations. The International OCD Foundation notes these themes can shift over time, and many people have mixed OCD. The point is, if the thought feels alien, causes panic, and you're doing rituals to make it stop, that's OCD and not just anxiety. So how common is it? You are far from alone if you do have it. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, about 2.3% of U.S. adults, roughly 1 in 40, will experience OCD in their lifetime. That's up to 10 million Americans. In any given year, 1.2% of adults, about 3 million, are struggling, with women affected more at 1.8% versus men at 0.5%. Globally, a massive 2025 World Mental Health Survey across 10 countries found lifetime rates up to 4.1% and 12-month rates around 3%, meaning up to 240 million people worldwide have or will have it. Kids also aren't spared. At least 1 in 100 children and teens in the U.S., that's about 2.2 million, have OCD. The average onset is late childhood to early 20s. The alarming part of the International OCD Foundation's landmark 2025 America's OCD Care Crisis report, analyzing over 10 million electronic health records, is that up to 75 to 80% of actual cases go completely undiagnosed in doctors' offices. Only 0.51% of records had a formal OCD diagnosis, even though the real rate is at 2 to 3%. And only 2% of people with OCD ever receive the gold standard treatment called exposure and response prevention, or ERP. Over 80% get no proper therapy at all. That's why diagnosis can take 7 to 17 years on average. Millions suffer in silence for years. So this is a real-life toll. It's not just a little anxiety. OCD wrecks lives. The National Institute of Mental Health data shows about half, around 50.6% of adults with OCD have serious impairment in work, social life, or relationships. Another third have moderate impairment. Half of people with OCD become unable to work or study at some point. 65% of adults and 90% of kids report major problems in daily functioning. One large study found 96% have moderate to severe symptoms. Quality of life plummets, worse than many chronic physical illnesses. Depression tags along in most cases. Suicide risk is dramatically higher. Studies show 5 to 10 times the general population risk for attempts, and overall death risk is doubled. Families suffer too. Loved ones often get pulled into rituals for peace, creating exhaustion and resentment. The economic cost is huge. Lost work, medical bills, and untreated suffering. It's ranked among the top 20 causes of disability worldwide. This isn't mild, it's a serious brain disorder. So why does it happen? Well, it's not your fault. It's not laziness. It's not being too neat. OCD is a combination of biology and life stress. Genetics load the gun. Twin and family studies show 40 to 65% heritability. The biggest genetic study ever, published in Nature Genetics in 2025, analyzed DNA from 53,660 people with OCD in over 2 million controls. They found 30 specific genetic locations and about 20 genes strongly linked to risk. These genes affect the hippocampus, which is in charge of fear and memory, the striatum, in charge of habits, and the cortex, which is in charge of decision making. In plain English, your brain's thought filter is wired differently. Brain chemistry and circuits. Imaging shows overactive loops in the corticostriato-thalamocortical pathway, or the CSTC pathway, like a traffic light stuck on red. Glutamate and serotonin signals get jammed, so normal weird thoughts that everyone has get amplified into panic. Environment pulls the trigger. Big life stress, trauma, pregnancy, or even childhood infections, such as pandas or PANS in a small subset, can flip the switch in genetically vulnerable people. Learning rituals from family can reinforce it. Researchers call it the perfect storm. Genes set the stage, life events light the match, but nobody chooses OCD. Now let's talk about some myths. All right, first up, we've got everyone's a little OCD. This is not true. Liking clean socks is not the same as rituals that ruin your day. Next up we have it's just about cleaning. This is only one theme. Most cases are invisible harm fears or mental loops. You can't just stop. Correction, you can just stop. Brains are literally wired differently. Willpower alone doesn't fix circuits. Now let's talk about diagnosis. So a trained professional uses interviews and tools like the Yale-Brown Obsessive-Compulsive scale. Free online screeners exist at iocdf.org. Average delay is years because many doctors still miss it. That's why seeing an OCD specialist matters. The good news is OCD is one of the most treatable mental health conditions. The gold standard is the exposure and response prevention intervention. It's a special form of cognitive behavioral therapy. You deliberately face the scary thought or trigger, which is the exposure, while refusing to do the compulsion, which is the response prevention. Anxiety spikes, then naturally drops through habituation. Your brain learns the thought isn't dangerous. So how it works in practice, so you and your therapist would build like a fear hierarchy, least and most scary triggers. Your session might start with touching something that's contaminated. This is like if you have contamination OCD, like a doorknob, and then you go without washing your hands for hours. This is where homework is key. Studies show 60 to 90% of people get major improvement. Many reach full remission. Symptom reduction averages 40 to 60% or more. Long-term gains last years when you keep practicing. Meta-analyses, including 2023 to 2025 reviews, confirm ERP beats meds alone and works beautifully online or in intensive 1 to 4 week programs. Adding medication, usually SSRIs like sertraline or fluoxetine, boosts results for many. The combo is often best, especially for kids. Other options, acceptance and commitment therapy for some, transcranial magnetic stimulation for treatment-resistant cases, or new approaches. For kids, family involvement is huge. A finding from the 2025 IOCDF reports only 2% currently get proper ERP. This is why awareness is everything. Demand the right help. Real people recover every day. One person went from 6 hours of checking daily to living freely after 12 weeks of ERP. Kids in studies often regain school and friendships. Gains stick when you use the skills. If you love someone with OCD, don't join rituals because it feeds the cycles. Encourage professional help. Learn from IOCDF Family Resources. That's the International OCD Foundation. OCD is real, biological, it's common, and it's brutal. But science has mapped the genes, the circuits, and the exact therapy that rewires it. The 2025 data proves recovery is not just possible, it's probable with the right care. The loop doesn't have to ruin your life. Reach out today. You are not broken. You're not alone. Help is here and it works. Thank you for checking out this episode. Share this with someone who needs it if you know it. And as always, I'll see you next episode.